Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Fate is like a strange, unpopular restaurant filled with odd little waiters who bring you things you never asked for and don't always like. At least that's according to Lemony Snicket. Guys, we are back with another Flicks Fridays episode. This is part of our spring bonus series that we're doing for you guys. We had our Facebook vote on which Netflix movies or series they would like us to review. And fortunate for us, a series of unfortunate events made the list. One of my favorite Netflix series, so I'm excited to talk about this today. I am Joshua Knoll here with TJ, Tiberius, Juan, Blackwell. And if you want to hear the rest of this series, you can check the show notes for a link that has the entire Flicks Fridays series down there. Without further ado, we're just going to jump straight into this. TJ, if we were about to watch this entire series, for some reason, you were like, Josh, come over. We're going to watch all of Unfortunate Events. How would we prep for that? Like, what food, beer, popcorn? Like, what are we getting together for our 3-season-long binge for some reason?
I think you kind of have to let the series speak to you. There are just certain times watching this show where it makes me want things. Does that make sense?
So you'd start first, and then let it tell us what we want.
Yeah.
See, I'm okay with that, but I still want to start with some form of snackage. I'm not sure why. I think it's just the mood I'm in. Specifically, I want to start with like a dark beer. Not a lot, just a little bit. Pretzels, probably some cheese to dip that pretzel in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like my go-to movie food. I think I'm just in the mood for a pretzel right now, and beer and cheese sound good with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
Those are good starter snacks.
Yeah, and then as the show goes on, because like we're obviously going to have to eat and drink again before the series finished if we're watching all 3 seasons. Yeah, I like your idea.
That's not that long.
Yeah. I mean, Count Olaf at some point probably looks directly at the screen and says, you should go get popcorn right now. Like, yeah. I bet that I don't bet. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that was in the series somewhere and I just forgot.
Yeah. But, I almost want to say we need to start with like a pasta, like eat a dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Or
that
at least
like,
don't get hungry. Cook dinner when we start the series.
Okay. I'm down.
So then when they're eating beef stroganoff in Count Olaf's house, so can we.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I like that. I'm for it. Well, hey, we put this through like a 2-part system where like the host came up with a bunch of series and movies that we like. Then the Facebook group voted on the ones it wanted most. This ended up making it through both rounds of that vigorous progress of choosing our topics. Why, TJ? Why do you think you were like, yeah, I want to talk about series of unfortunate events? Sure.
If you haven't seen a series of unfortunate events, but you have seen Wes Anderson movies, this is about as close as you can get without being a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I really feel like it's just like
the writing wise, at least, is what I mean specifically. Visually, that it's not Anderson-esque, but it's very witty.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. I think that's why I'm drawn to this. Why I'm like, I want to talk about this show, because like it's witty, it's very whimsical, but it's still dark. Like, it's not like, watching Disney or SpongeBob. Like, it's whimsical, but with a very dark sense of humor, I guess.
Yeah, it hits the mix perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think this probably is my first interaction to dark humor. Like, when I watched the old Jim Carrey movie, I feel like that was the first time as a kid that I was like, dark humor, this is funny, me like.
Baby in cage. Haha.
Yeah, hilarious. The show definitely leans further into the dark humor. I feel like when the Jim Carrey movie came out, they didn't think audiences wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Yeah. Well, the series starts that way. Like, that is just the way the series goes.
Yeah.
It gets more tense and things get worse for our family as the series goes on. And the movie is only the first 3 books. So,
yeah. So, what is your history with this? So I mentioned, like, I saw the movie. For me as a kid, I tried to read the books, but I was ADHD, so I couldn't get through them. I didn't actually end up reading the books until I saw the show. I watched the show as soon as it dropped because Neil Patrick Harris was in it, and I love him. But for you, like, what's your history? Did you read these books growing up, or?
Yep. I watched the movie first, just because it was for sale at Dollar General as a DVD, and naturally, that's where we get all of our movies. So my dad bought it one day, and we watched it for the next 7 years, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's great. I love it a lot, and the series was fantastic. Like the books, I mean, I love them. They're so good. I would buy a box set of A Series of Unfortunate Events. And if you've ever seen me, if you've ever watched one of our episodes on YouTube and seen me lean too far one direction or the other, you've seen I don't own a lot of books.
Yeah. I'm probably going to own less now that I have a Kindle. Turns out it's just convenient.
Yeah, it's true. Online reading is so nuts.
Yeah. But no, I did think, like, when I read the books, I loved it. And I think what's interesting is how the ending changes from the books to the series, the show. And apparently that has to do with some other series that he wrote about the other child. When she grew up and she talked to Olaf. Yeah, I haven't read that. I read the series though, and what's fun is, like, the book series ends on kind of like a darker cliffhanger, and you're just kind of left to assume more bad things are probably going to happen to these kids. I don't think that would have translated well for the show. Like, I know a lot of people were aggravated, but I feel like in a show like this, you needed more of a conclusion than you would with like a book series like that, I think.
Yeah, I think the ending is good too.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't feel like it was a disservice to, Lemony Snicket, Daniel Handler at all. It was good. I liked it.
Which he actually helped write the show, which is part of the fun. The Jim Carrey isn't canon at all. But because the writer of the books helped write the show, there's a lot of questions of, like, so are the stuff that was added and all of that kind of thing is considered canon since he was part of it? I think whatever you want to be canon is canon in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I think when something like this happens, and it happens a lot more for, like, anime and sometimes comic books, I think it makes it canon.
Yeah, I think it should. But as far as, like, the plot, like, what is this series, the books, the movie, like, what is the series of unfortunate events about?
So, A Series of Unfortunate Events is about a series of unfortunate events that happen to the I was going to say titular, but no, sort of. But the main characters of the story are the Baudelaire orphans. Their parents die in a house fire, super rich people, super talented kids, who allegedly died, accidental fire. But we follow them in their struggles to find a home, basically.
God, that sounds so depressing, but I mean, like, that's accurate.
It is a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, they just keep getting put in really awful homes.
Yeah, and it's not even like
that just sounds so bad. Like, this is not something you want to watch the way we're describing it.
Yeah, no, we follow the kids and they get shunted off to, their parents' friends' houses. And Count Olaf, who wants the Baudelaire fortune, he's plotting in the background. He wants the Baudelaire fortune, therefore he wants to have custody of the Baudelaire orphans.
Yeah, and then also maybe for them to die.
Yeah, and obviously you've got to kill them at some point, or it would still be their money.
That would be unfortunate. for him. Yeah, that's the sequel. Sequel, Unfortunate Series of Events, is about Olaf and how unfortunate it is he doesn't get the money he wants.
Yeah,
For
it
him
is. The
specifically.
series is also a series of unfortunate events for him. If you watch it from his perspective, bad stuff just keeps happening to Olaf. He never gets what he wants until the very end, where he does get what he wants for a minute.
Yeah, but he's also just one of the most despicable characters in literature. I feel like he's just awful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, move over, Blood Meridian. We have a...
Yeah, and I feel like, so when Jim Carrey did it in the movie, the character was really funny, and I like that. I like how Neil Patrick Harrison portrays this character as like not someone who's just like evil, but like maybe insane. Like he's just so like it's like the whimsy comes off as like someone who maybe this guy's actually just absolutely crazy. I think too, part of what lures you is there's always just a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystery, and a dash of hope. So you keep like, maybe things actually won't be that bad for them. Even though literally the show starts with Patrick Warburton staring at the screen going, if you like pleasant stories, you shouldn't watch this. And then we all watched it anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't hide the fact that it is a show about bad stuff happening to kids.
Yeah, like the theme is like, look away.
Look away, look away. There's nothing but horror.
Yeah, but like it really is. It's just awful stuff. And then there's the mystery part is like, turns out there's like this secret society that their parents may or may not, I think actually it's confirmed, their parents are involved in. Olaf's involved in it. And there's like spy stuff going on in the background. So like you have that subplot. And then all the while, these kids are just going from home to home being terribly mistreated. And you see just every now and then like a nice person. You're like, oh, maybe they'll get adopted by that person next. Nope. They're going to get shipped away to a completely another terrible spot.
Yeah. No, not even that. It's like that good person, he's going to get killed.
Yeah. Just bad. Dead. Yeah.
That's what happens every time.
Yeah. One of the things the show did too that was fun with Olaf was like, since Neil Patrick Harrison was playing him, they were like, he sings now. I loved that.
Of course.
That was great.
Like we have Neil Patrick Harris. This is a musical.
Yeah, this is immediately has to become a musical.
Which is the right choice.
I agree. Man, the show was so much, even though it was dark, it was so much fun and it was just exhilarating. Like I was watching this and like I'm having a good time. And then also that forces me to be contemplative because I'm like, I'm having a really fun time. And also, why did I have fun? Like these kids were basically just forced into slave labor working in a mine. Why is that funny to me?
They're just funny kids.
Yeah, I don't know. Shouldn't be funny, but it is.
But it is every time. It's so witty. It's the pace of the jokes that fly in this series. It's so fast and they're so nonchalant about it. I love it. That's my favorite style of comedy. It's some people call it like the British sense of humor, which it's kind of right. Like British TV does tend to do that sort of comedy
But they
more
took
often.
it from TJ, so it really should be called the TJ humor.
That is how I like to tell jokes, and it always has been.
Yeah, and you definitely existed before Britain.
Yeah, just by a couple of years, but
Yeah. No, man. Yeah, but yeah, it's witty. It's fun. It's dark. It's crazy. It's wild. I don't want to give away too much of the story. I feel like people should watch it. Just know that nothing is what it appears to be. Even if you read the books, I feel like when you watch the show, it's like, oh yeah, nothing's quite what you thought it was.
yeah,
And that's what makes
it's
it
really
great.
good. Yeah, it's really good.
So-
It's so well written. Like you mentioned it before, there's a dash of hope everywhere. There's always there is hope there. It's 13 books long and 27 episodes.
Yeah.
Bad stuff happens. You know?
Yeah. And I think what's crazy too is like every time you get a little bit of that hope, like it makes you keep watching and then it gets destroyed again, but there's still a little bit of hope of something else. And I think that's what's fun. So when the books end and you don't see what really happens to the kids, it's like you still have that little bit of hope, even though you know it's probably terrible things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the show, it kind of basically skips over a lot of their life. And it's like, it turns out okay. And you're like, it's weird. It's almost like retroactive hope, but like, you know, that for it to turn out okay, there was probably still a lot of terrible things that happened in the process. And you're like, man, it just leaves you with that.
Yeah. It's like watching Star Wars in chronological order. You finish the first 3 movies and you're like, wow, that was a pretty good series if you're under the age of 30. And then you're like, that was great. I can't believe I never watched that. And then you find out there's a new hope. There's more.
Yeah. Man.
And then after that trilogy, it's bad. It's a series of unfortunate events.
I thought the sequel trilogy was mostly good, except for that.
It was mostly all right. Yeah.
Yeah. But so while you were watching this, it came out in 3 seasons. And for me, I remember at the end of each season, Googling when the next one was going to happen. Like, I was dying for more. Like, it always left me wanting more. How was your reaction at the end of each season? Were you sitting with it like, oh, that was pretty good compared to the looks? Or were you like, yeah, I'm ready for the next season already? Like, where were you?
Oh, yeah. No, I was just upset. Because I'm pretty sure we've watched at least season 1 of this together before.
I thought I remembered us watching some of it together, but I couldn't remember what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, if we didn't watch it together, I at least watched a good bit of season 1 in your house.
Yeah, it's just so good. We already kind of talked about what makes it bingeable. It's just that little bit of hope with the comedy, and the pacing is great. I'm glad you mentioned the pacing. I do think that's a lot of it. In the spy narrative, the fact that like the show itself feels almost like a book because you have a narrative. You have Lemony Snicket speaking to you as Patrick Warburton, and he's like telling you what's going on. It's like, hey, this isn't going to end well. This is what's going to happen here. And they even do the little bit from the book where it's like this word, which in this context means. And it's great because in the show, the kids are like, we know what that word means.
Yeah. One of the kids, all of the kids are super smart. They express it in different ways. The oldest is Violet Baudelaire. She is an inventor. So she ties her hair up when it's time to invent some and just gets down to it. And she MacGyvers whatever they need in that situation. Klaus is a reader.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He just has read every book pretty much.
True.
And Sonny bites stuff really well.
Yeah.
Sonny's a baby.
I love that. I love that they were like, I'm working for the babies on the too. Well, so part of it too, though, that I think like it adds to the humor, and I think it's probably part of the point of the whole narrative, is just how people treat children, like they talk down to them. And I think that's why it does that thing of like this word, which in this context means, and they're like, we know what that word means. Like everybody looking at the children as if they're not there. It's like they're not even recognizing that their personhood. I mean, even to the point of like in the show, I don't know if this happens, I don't remember if this happens in the book or not, but when they end up in the Poe's house, like before they start going to foster homes, the mom, who's a reporter, is like, tell me, how miserable do you feel? That'll be a great headline. And it's like, it's funny, but also you're like, hold up. Yeah, like that, like people really do that. Like they just treat children like they're not there. Yeah. And I feel like that's probably why the book series clicked with so many children, because they're like, yeah, I just don't feel seen. And this whole series really is about not feeling seen, and how like everyone's like, oh man, if I was a kid again, life was great. And it's like, well, sometimes for a kid, life isn't great.
Yeah. And it really did. When I was a kid, I was like, this is awesome. This book's great. I do know all those words.
Yeah. And grown-ups really did say, well, this word means. You're like, I know.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I actually know that because I read a series of unfortunate events.
So funny. Oh, man. But like, I don't know. I loved that. We'll get to some more of the other themes in a little bit, but I just thought that was an important thing to bring out when we're talking about like how the story's formatted, both in the show and in the books. It's very much about like the personhood of children, and how like sometimes we look past kids as if they're not there, and they're there. Fun fact.
That's true. Usually.
Yeah. TJ, if you had to rate the TV series, since that's what we're supposed to be talking about, we just keep talking about both. 0 to 10, how are you rating a series of unfortunate events, the Netflix edition?
Is it perfect? It's really close.
Yeah. I started rewatching it today because I knew we were recording this, and Daredevil didn't drop when I wanted it to.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.5. I'm going to rewatch the series, and then I'll tell our social media guy to post about it if I update it to a 10.
Yeah. You'll get on Discord, so if people want to communicate with you.
Yeah, naturally. You can just ask for updates on where I am in the rewatch, but
yeah. Annoyingly, I just agree with you. Like I feel like I'm like Josh with a bad opinion, and I'm supposed to disagree with people and stuff, but I'm like, I'm gonna go with 9.5. Everything I remember about it is perfect. The only reason I don't give it a 10 is like, because my rating thing is more of like comparing it if I'm just gonna watch any other series. Even if I limit it to Netflix, especially now that Daredevil's no longer a Netflix show, it might be my favorite Netflix show. It really might.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't really think of one that's better.
Yeah. But if I just do like shows of all time, like, yeah, there are shows I like more than it. But it's not because there's any flaws in this show. There's other shows I just happen to enjoy more. So 9.5, maybe 9.7. It's as close as I can get to a 10 without saying 10, because it's not my favorite show.
See, I don't like doing decimals if they're not increments of 5, because at that point, why aren't we just doing 1 out of 100?
True. 1 out of 100. I'm gonna go 98.
That's not even what you said.
Yeah, but it changed. 100 made it change, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go for a solid 95.
Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing as 9.5 in that case. You might as well have just.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, other parts of this show that I thought was interesting is it kind of shows like that kind of pessimistic attitude. I think a lot of us feel this, where like actually life just sucks, and sometimes it's fun to laugh at life sucking because we're like, yeah, life really is garbage, and this is so exaggerated that it makes it funny, even though a lot of us actually feel this way, that life is just unfortunate, a series of unfortunate events. Other parts of it is like it talks about like fairness, and we kind of see how like these children just are not being treated fairly. And there's also a lot of fate. Like we know that they are fated for more unfortune. The series really kind of hinges on a really dark view of how life goes or is going to go.
Yeah. And let's not get it twisted. The series is called A Series of Unfortunate Events. Once again, very aptly named. Yeah. Because
pretty on the nose, actually.
Maybe a few fortunate events happen over the course of the series. Like 2 or 3 good things.
Yeah. I think maybe that's also part of the allure. Is like it's so on the nose that I'm like, there's got to be something good at it. Like when they start a show with a look away, hey, you probably shouldn't see this if you enjoy happy endings. I'm immediately like, there'd be something happy in it, right? Like, given the tone of your voice, the color scheme, Patrick Warburton and Neil Patrick Harris is in it.
And Kobe Smulders.
Yeah, there's got to be something happy in it. And like you laugh, but I'm like, I'm not sure that I could point to something and be like, that was a happy part of the show.
Yeah. And when it does happen,
it's almost immediately ripped away.
Yeah, here come the unfortunate parts.
Yeah. It's like good things only happen, so more bad things can happen.
They get sent to a home with Count Olaf. Bad. Then they get sent to a home with the Montgomery. Good caretaker. He cares about them. He listens to them. They're fed, housed, happy. He has a bunch of cool animals. Who's a herpetologist. Mm-hmm. So it's reptiles. Bunch of cool snakes in there. Count Olaf kills him.
Yeah, of course.
Spoiler warning.
Yeah, why do they get sent to mines at one point? Why does that happen? I don't even remember.
Olaf.
Oh, yeah, because I remember they ran away and got stuck in a circus, and that also turned out terrible.
Oh, there's just it's so interesting, and finding out, watching it, slowly realizing that the entire time the series has actually been revolving around the secret society of the VFD.
Yeah, well, and that's what makes it a good rewatch too. Is like there's so many symbols and like letters and stuff hidden, and you're like, oh, this was here the whole time. It's great. Oh man, yeah. I think with the dark perspective, I'm a little torn on it because obviously I think that God's making all things new. You know, my particular viewpoint is that God is good, love is good, life is actually good if we allow it to be. And I don't think this show would agree with that in the least. I feel like the entire stories are like life actually sucks. Make the most of what you can. Like it's very existentialist in that sense of like life sucks. There's no point to any of this. You can make your own meaning if you want to, but life is going to suck.
Yeah. And it's really funny because they make it pretty clear everyone outside of our main cast is just living like a normal life.
Yeah. But I think, though, part of what speaks to people, I think everyone at some point has felt like this. Like their entire life, anytime something good happens, it's just immediately bombarded with tragedy. Like some of us just feel like our lives are that bad. And that's what's interesting to me is like we get drawn to the show, even though a lot of us feel this way. And the show doesn't really deliver on hope or anything at the end. And yet we're still drawn to it. Like, what do we just want to see other people suffer too? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Why is it? Like I understand the idea of like me being hurt, so I want to see this kind of thing that I resonate with. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I should want a happier ending, especially given my own particular, theology and stuff where like I believe all things are going to work for good. That's what happens in this series, and I'm still drawn to this series because I can relate to that feeling.
Yeah, and I don't want my earlier statement to be misconstrued by anybody. When I said main cast, I was including the Quagmire orphans. They are also in their own series of unfortunate events.
Yeah. But so what about for you? Watching this, very pessimistic view on life. Everything sucks. Do you ever relate to that? Like, you feel that way, and why are you drawn to this then? I guess.
No, I don't think that way ever. I want to say I lean towards stoicism a bit, not a lot, just enough. But it just shows just good. It's good writing. It's entertaining. It's quick. It's witty. Some would say quick-witted. I hate hyphenation, so I don't. But it has everything that I want. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. You lean more towards stoicism. I don't find myself in kind of the existentialist camp that I think the show writer probably does, just given the tones of this. But I can appreciate it. I relate to it. I understand why other people feel this way. I can relate to it. Personally, in a more Taoist kind of philosophy, and also because I don't think time is real, I kind of feel like whatever's happening in the present, you can find good in. And that's where this series challenges me. And I think I like that too. I like being challenged a little bit. But yeah, sometimes I also feel this way, that everything is garbage. But I live by a conviction that I can be in this present moment, and I can find God in this moment. I can find love in the moment that I'm currently in. But if you're given a life like this, where everything's always bad, and every time something good happens, another bad thing happens, it's hard to sit there and go, well, time is not real, so I got to focus on this current moment. Because when your life is like that, all you can think of is like, well, my past has been like this, and my future is obviously going to keep being like this. And I don't think it's easy to get out of that mindset. And that's what challenges me, is that I get it. Like, I get where the writer's coming from. I get where the story's coming from. It's not a philosophy that I prescribe to, but I have a hard time saying, hey, those feelings are invalid. Because it's true. It's valid. It's a valid feeling. It's just, I don't think it's a useful way to live, is under the assumption that that's how life's going to be. So I don't live that way.
Yeah, I prefer to think tomorrow could always be a little better.
Yeah, that's just it. I love what the story has to say. I love how it says it. I think it's a lot of fun. But I do disagree with the fundamental idea behind it, that everything is always unfortunate all the time.
No, but that's integral to the plight of the Baudelaire orphans. Tomorrow could be better.
That's true. And that's why we keep watching, because there's always that dash of hope that just seems to never be delivered on. Yeah, which is what makes the series addictive and bingeable. Even
it's so good.
I'm like, I think this is a bleaker look on life than what I might prescribe to. But that little bit of hope really just keeps you in there, man. Just keeps you in there.
I don't know what the total runtime of the series is. I do know that it's worth it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if nothing else, Neil Patrick Harris, this is like some of his absolute best work. It's so freaking good.
It's so good. It's amazing.
Yeah. But all that said, TJ, if we finished watching all 3 seasons together at one of our homes for some reason we decided to watch all of this again. After we binged it, like, I go home, you go home, but every time you finish binging a show, like, it's always like you have that feeling where you're like, there's just like a missing part of your life because you watched a show so long that it became part of your life. How are you feeling that void after you finish a good series? What's going to be next? Are you going to binge another show? Is there a movie afterwards? Are you just like taking a break from media for a little bit? What are you doing with that?
Get on a game. See, that's the good part about being into competitive multiplayer games.
Yeah.
You just get on. But I will say, total runtime is only 21 hours and 15 minutes.
So we only really need one good day to finish the series.
Yeah.
You might as well come over now.
We've worked a shift together longer than that.
It's depressing that that's true. That was an unfortunate event. Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, it's a great series. I think for me, man, if this show specifically, if I finish binging it, I don't want to jump into another show afterwards. I want to let it digest a little bit. So I think I'm with you. I'm probably going to jump to a game afterwards. And it's probably going to be Kingdom Hearts. I'm going to return to something familiar enough that I don't have to think about what I'm currently doing, but we'll still have fun.
No, it's the opposite for me. I'm gonna come back to my home, and I'm going to get on a game where the knowledge of the average player is so much more advanced than mine that I have to think about every action.
You know what else I think might make a game good follow-up at the end of this? I might be thinking too much now, but it's fine. I think also for me, it's that playing a game, I have full control. So I think after watching a series like this, where it's like bad things are going to keep happening and it's just not in their control at all, I feel like it might just make me feel better to go through a story where I have complete control over what happens. I feel like that'd just be nice, actually.
I do think I would probably be tempted to play the video game.
There's a video game?
Yeah. PS2, 2004, series of unfortunate events video game. I remember enjoying it a lot. It's probably really bad.
That's true. You could also watch the movie, the Jim Carrey movie.
I do also love the movie.
It's a lot funnier and a lot less dark, so it might be a good way to transition back to normal life after watching the series. It's all in one day for some reason.
Yeah, see, like I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna get on Counter-Strike, right? Mm-hmm. After I'm done. Because after witnessing 20 straight hours of being
just unfortunate
bereft
events
of control, I can jump into a game where any person in my lobby might have literally 6,000 hours in the game and be in the exact same situation.
You know, hearing that thought, I might play Ratchet and Clank, actually. As I've discovered, since I got a Steam Deck and I started playing the original Ratchet and Clank games again, I can still play most of it just from like what's it called when your memory goes to like where it's like subconscious? Like muscle I'm just I'm like muscle memory playing this game where I'm like not even thinking about it and I'm just winning. And I'm like, something about just feeling that victorious I think would be nice after watching the series. Like, let me just play something I know I'm going to dominate at.
Maybe. I might be tempted to get on Dark Souls 3. And just autopilot through Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, guys, let us know on our Discord or something what you guys would want to watch after finishing this entire series in 20 straight hours. We would love to know. I really would. I'm now genuinely interested. That became the most interesting question of this to me. Because I'm like, I didn't think about how I would feel after watching 20 straight hours of unfortunate events. And now that's all I can think about.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, I will say if you haven't seen it and you're going to see it, if I remember right, watching it for the first time, it made me feel kind of like the end of BoJack Horseman, which Josh doesn't like, by the way.
Yeah. That ending just aggravated me. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys.
No, BoJack is the same show as this, actually.
But no.
It is. BoJack is a series of unfortunate events, and you didn't like that the ending was unfortunate.
See, the difference, though, is like all the unfortunate things happened were actually BoJack's fault.
Yeah.
It was not the children's fault that these things happened to them. They were completely without control.
Most of the time.
It's just different. All right, anyway, guys, let us know what you think. How you would compare this show to BoJack Horseman by rating and reviewing our show on Podchaser, Good Pods, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. It helps the algorithms and other people find the show. So we would really appreciate it. We also want to know your answer to the questions that we're ending this with just a lot of questions. More questions than answers, as I might say on one of my other podcasts. Anyway, check out the show notes for that playlist of this whole series down below again. Flicks Fridays. Thank you for joining us on your Friday. We appreciate you guys. And remember, we are all the chosen people, the geekdom of Priest. Look away.
Hello, friends. If you enjoy Systematic Ecology, a great way to support us and to keep us moving forward into the future is to be a patron on our Patreon network. If you're a Patreon, then you get live access to our YouTube exclusives like Comic Book Ketchup and Manga Mustard, Drinks with Tejas, and also some extra content there with our companion series to go along with our annual theme. If you're a patron, you get exclusive merch like t-shirts and handbags and mugs. There's also a bonus extra question that has extra content. In each episode, we go deeper into our faith and the questions that we're wrestling with, but we also do this extra question to jump in and share about, and patrons get to hear how we answer that question. There's discounts on our store. You get access to any future online D&D campaigns. You can easily access all of our Patreon content through our Spotify page where it says exclusive content for subscribers. That could be you folks. And all that being said, you get the satisfaction that you help us keep the lights on and keep us moving forward with our software, our marketing, our equipment, staying current in the podcast game. We love systematic ecology. We hope you do too. Support us moving forward. Thank you for all that you are. We know there's a lot of great choices and content out there, and you choose to listen to systematic ecology. Thanks, folks. We love you. Peace.
Hey guys, Christian here to talk to you about the AMP Network. That is the Amazon Ministries Podcasting Network. That's what we do for all of us here together. You can follow the whole network in a single feed on Spotify at Amazon Ministries Podcast or on the network page on Apple Podcasts to just see what we're all doing. And what are we doing? Well, we have plenty of things here. We've got the homily. You love Pastor Will. You want to hear Pastor Will preach. You hear the man doing a homily there. It's amazing. The man does spectacular work for Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Then we have the Whole Church podcast. If you want to hear Joshua and TJ talk to different people from around the church who have very different views on how things should go, check it out there. You want to go to My Seminary Life? You want to get some more Brandon Knight in your life? Who doesn't want more of that? Go there, hear about the man, discuss his time at seminary, which is what he used to do. Now he's on other topics, and just head out there for what the rest of the man can do. Hear a lot of good stuff that way. Now you can head over to Let Nothing Move You. That's my podcast where I go through the Bible chapter by chapter, verse by verse. I started with Luke, then I went to Romans. Now I'm in Genesis, and I'm moving on from there. It's a good time if you want to hear how I view the Bible, how things should go there. You can do that. You can go to Dummy for Theology, where you hear Joshua Noel discuss the various theological topics that he has there in an attempt to show every side of the big discussions, leaving you with more questions than answers. If that infuriates you like me, but you still want to listen, head out that way. You can go to the Bible After Hours. We have the foul-mouthed preacher there, and he's going to deliver things that not ready for every ear to hear, but sometimes you need someone to be a little filthy out there just to give a more progressive view of the church, to challenge the status quo of what is happening here. Do you agree with him? Do you not like him? How are you going to know if you don't listen to him? And finally, we have save best for last, the Clydes. Taylor and Elizabeth Clyde. You need some more pangalanging in your life, like all of us do, then head out there, see what's going on in their own life, in their own ministry, so you can hear the devotions and everything going on in their lives. Once again, that's the Amazon Ministries Podcasting Network, AMP, and we love you guys. See you next time.